Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know, I make content relating to my prison experience. I was somebody who worked in prison and I also have input of somebody who was also incarcerated in prison. I also have videos relating to my active fentanyl addiction, so if those interest you, please do subscribe. This video is going to be a little bit different, however, this is going to be talking about my mental health, my experience specifically with the Linden Method, focused on anxiety. It's like a retreat or a bit like a kind of rehab centre. It's going to be sort of how I heard about it, how I got into it, and how I feel sort of post being there as well. So a little bit of backstory on my mental health. I have struggled with it since I was very, very young, as long as I can remember, probably since I was a toddler. I remember being 4 years old and being at school and struggling, and I never realised now, but I think a lot of it stems from my early childhood. My parents were both very, very violent, specifically my dad. I now don't have anything to do with my dad, haven't spoken to him in many, many years. And I don't intend on doing it anytime soon. He is not a nice person at all. Him and my mum used to fight a lot in front of me and my sister. So I witnessed that from 3, 4 years old up until about 6, 7. So that obviously played a big part in it, which I didn't realise at the time. I struggled throughout school and it was just seen as I was a shy kid, I was a nervous kid. No, I was struggling really, really severely with anxiety, to the point where I just wanted to be invisible. I didn't want anybody to notice me. I wanted to get in school, sit down and no one acknowledged me. I didn't want teachers to, I didn't want the other students to. I just wanted people to act like I was not there. If the teachers asked me a question, I'd start going red, I'd start sweating, I'd get panicky, and I would pretend I didn't know the answer just so I didn't have to speak and we could move on. I was a bright kid, I was pretty intelligent and I always knew the answer, but I was so scared of getting it wrong, so scared of the embarrassment that I never did. I never spoke up. And that kind of went all through my childhood, all through my teenage years and early adulthood as well. I had quite a lot of traumatic things happen to me as well, especially around the age of 16. Some really, really, really awful things happened, which I possibly in time will do some videos on, but it's not something that I'm ready to talk about as of yet. So a lot happened. I was then also in a relationship which was incredibly toxic. It was not a good relationship at all. I gave my all to the relationship and it was not reciprocated, unfortunately. And having struggled previously with my mental health, having the things that happened to me when I was, around 16, and then this happening, I literally felt like my heart was broken. I felt destroyed. I felt devastated. I've never ever felt pain like it, and I look back now and I can still feel like the physical pain I was in, because I was that heartbroken and devastated. And I probably would have dealt with it a lot better had I not have struggled previously. And the sad thing is until I was about 18, 19, I thought everyone was sad. I was that depressed. I thought everybody cried all the time. I thought everyone's sad all the time. People just cope with it better, but everyone must be sad all the time. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm the same as everybody else. And like, that's so sad when I think about it now. So I just thought that was how everyone was. Obviously that's not the case, but I was so convinced. My mum suffers really badly with her mental health, although she was one of those that would never admit it. It took a very, very long time to admit and actually get some help for it, but for the longest time I just saw her being sad all the time and her turning to drink a lot of the time and her being quite angry, and that was all her depression. And it was similar with myself, and I just thought, oh, everyone's like this, everyone's depressed, I didn't even see it as being depressed, everyone's sad, everyone cries all the time, not realising that actually no, people don't. People can be happy, and to me it was, no one's happy. just how everyone is. So I started getting treatment for my mental health. I started probably when I was about 15, and then it continued after all the traumatic things happened. But nothing ever really helped, and I'm going to do a full video on all of the different treatments that I've had. But I've been through every medication. My diagnosis changed from depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder. We've had lots of different diagnoses at different points. PTSD. There's been a lot. So as it's changed, I've had different treatments kind of going, and nothing has really helped. And I got to 22, I think I was 22, and I really was at a low point, the lowest point I've ever been at in my life. I was hoping every single day I'd get hit by a car, something would take me out, something would kill me. Every single day I was like, please. And I would wake up and I'd be like, I'm here again, why am I still here? And I would cry because I just desperately did not want to be here. And I would go out and I would shut my eyes while I was driving. It's so dangerous, but I would shut my eyes while I was driving because I wanted to die. I wanted someone to take me out. It was awful. It was just awful. And I just thought, this is it for the rest of my life. What kind of life is this? I was in a relationship which I wasn't getting very much from, and like I said, I gave my all and I was not getting the same back. It was a very on and off relationship for many years, and I always hoped this person would come around and it wouldn't be reciprocated. So every time I just got more and more hurt. And one night I just had enough. I just had absolutely enough. And again, I will do a full video on kind of what led me to this, but I did try to take my own life, and obviously I was very poorly. Luckily I went to hospital and I got some help, and I was a little bit more stable after then. But I thought that this can't be it. This cannot be me for the rest of my life. I need to find something that makes me happy, something that makes me just not want to die. And that was my aim, was to just not want to die. And it sounds so sad now, but that was all I wanted, was to just wake up one day and just not want to die. It sounds so mad now. It sounds so mad coming from somebody who's, now I'm a lot more stable. I still have my struggles, of course, but to hear that, to remind myself that that's where I was. And I do it regularly. I remind myself, do you remember when you were here and that was all you wanted? Now you've got this. I think it's important for me. I find that's helpful for me to remind myself, like, that was all you wanted. All you wanted was to just not want to die. So I think that's a big thing for me. So I did a little bit of research because I thought there must be something. That was when I came across the Linden Method. This was set up by a gentleman who had struggled with crippling anxiety for much of his life, to the point where he couldn't leave the house. During this time, had a similar thing where I didn't want to leave the house. My anxiety was incredibly bad, to the point where I could not go anywhere on my own, nowhere. I remember driving up to the supermarket and sitting outside in my car and just crying and panicking and working myself up to the point I had a huge panic attack, and I drove and I went home. I needed to go and was get some dog food, and I couldn't do it. Could not do it. Couldn't go and get petrol even by myself. My anxiety was that bad. I just thought of all the things that were going to go wrong, and I couldn't do it. It was just, well, what if this happens? What if you drop something? What if you fall over? What if you're sick? What if you wet yourself? What if you bump into somebody? What if, all these things that chances are would never happen, but in my head I was so sure, yeah, this is all going to happen, I can't do it. And so when I read that, I really resonated with the fact that he'd come through that and he'd set this up, and it was a technique that he started to help other people. And there was a few kind of well-known people, or well-known people's family members, that had been and had said it was, amazing. and it was really, really life-changing. And as you know, you guys will know, I was in a car accident, so I had some compensation from that. And I looked at this and it was £3,000 for 4 days, which is a lot of money, an awful lot of money. But for me, it was worth it. I researched it for months and months, and I thought, this is the right thing to do. If this is going to help me, if this is as good as it's saying it is, and all the reviews, there was only positive reviews on it, and I did so much research, and I thought, this is going to change my life and make me happy. It is worth every single penny. And I did it. I paid the money, and I was going off in like a couple of weeks. And they ran it like once a month, and I was going off in a couple of weeks, and I was so excited. I was so excited because I thought, I'm gonna be fixed. It's gonna be amazing. I'm gonna be fixed and it's gonna be great. Because one thing I later found from there is I do have some form of mood disorder. I don't know if that's bipolar disorder. I don't know if it's borderline personality disorder. I have a lot of symptoms that kind of correlate with the two. But a lot of it stems from anxiety. And when I thought about it, my depression comes from being anxious. I'm so fed up with being anxious that it makes me depressed. And I realised this when I went to the retreat, to the rehab centre, whatever you want to call it. I realised that everything is caused from my anxiety. My anxiety causes everything. My anxiety of my partner at the time not wanting me causes me to not eat, to not sleep, which then spirals further into a depression, and then I get more anxious, which makes me more depressed, and it's a bit of a vicious cycle. When I told people I was booked on, a lot of people thought I was mad because of the cost, but I really couldn't care less. My work were great, and I just said I need to go on this. They knew that I'd previously tried to take my life, and they knew that I was very unwell, and they just said, yeah, by all means, take the time off you need and go. So that was great. And my mum said, right, I'm going to drive you because I don't want you to leave. I want to make sure you go. I drop you off. It was about an hour and a half away from where I lived, so it was enough space, and it was literally in the middle of nowhere, so there was no way I was going to be able to get out, which was great. And when I got there, quite amazingly, there was people from all over the world. There was 3 ladies from Canada, and there was a girl from Oman, near Dubai, I believe, that kind of area. And there was some people from other places as well. It was incredible. And then all over the UK as well. Amazing, really. I thought, wow, like it must be that incredible because all of these people have come from all over. Thought, what are they going to do in 4 days that's really going to change how we feel? But I was willing to try anything at this point. My mum drops me off. A few people had their parents stay with them, but I found out it'd be better with just myself. So we had a little look around. It was this amazing, like, stately home in the middle of nowhere, gorgeous grounds, and kind of the first day they just said, get comfortable with it, go and see your room, chill out, and we'll have dinner. So each meal that we had was on this big table, and the food was amazing. It was gorgeous food, and it was very like nutritional food as well. They looked into what they served you. They weren't just serving you unhealthy food, they were serving you like amazing food that was nutritional as well. And it was a really amazing place because there was one lad who I really, really got on well with. We chatted afterwards as well. I got on great with him. He had a little therapy dog, which is why we spoke a lot, because I love dogs, and he had his little dog with him. So we started speaking because he had anxiety about eating, so he didn't eat with us. He ate outside. It was summer, it was gorgeous, and he was able to eat outside, and that was fine. No one was pushed to do anything, and that was the great thing. Now, people didn't realise at first that I was somebody there with anxiety, because I have learned over the years to mask it and to act like everything's fine, there's not a problem, everything's great, when in reality everything is not great, and I'm freaking out and I'm literally about to have a panic attack, but I'm great at like masking it and acting like everything's fine. And so at the start, people thought I worked there. They didn't realise I was somebody there like them. They had no idea. which they told me afterwards, and I thought it was so funny. I can't believe that I was able to give off that much of a vibe that, you know, I wasn't nervous at all when inside. Like I say, I was literally on the brink of a panic attack. Whilst we were there, they used to do a session in the morning looking at what anxiety is and how to deal with it. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a minute. And then you would have, like I say, each of your meals. And then in the afternoon, you would have an activity. So it'd be like a massage. We did Tai Chi. It was a lot of like relaxing, calming activities. So things that they did and the things that they taught us to deal with it. First of all, it was just finding out what anxiety is. So, you know, what it is, how it makes you feel. So instead of just looking at this big anxiety bubble, this is anxiety and I can't cope with it, a lot of it was breaking it down. And the most useful thing I found was like, it was a circle and it was broken down into little segments like a pizza. It was all the little slices of pizza, say, and each of them were a different thing. So it could be relationships, it could be social life, it could be finances, career, all those sorts of things. And all the little segments were numbered. So little sections in the segment. I hope I'm explaining this all right. So you've got your segment like this, and it was cut off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you would basically colour in up to which number you felt, how satisfied you felt in that area. So for example, your relationship, you might feel like a 6, or finances, you might feel like a 3, or whatever it was you felt like. And then on the opposite page, you would write 1 or 2 things that would bump each thing up just by one little box, making your finances go from a 3 to a 4, and you would feel more satisfied in that area. Making your relationship go from a 6 to a 7. What's little things that can be done? And they were tiny things. They were just really tiny things that could help. And a lot of us found when it was broken down into, okay, actually, do you know the area that's causing me so much stress is this, and I can do something about it. You know, it might be your career. Well, I can do something about that. And then if I change my career, okay, that's also going to bump up my financial state. It's also going to affect my family or my social, and things then start to add up in the right way. And looking at it like that with so much clarity, I couldn't believe it, that looking like this, instead of just being like, I've got anxiety, I can't cope with it, breaking it down, wow, it made so much sense. I think that was also helpful, was just having it on paper and having it in front of you, like it's broken down, it makes a lot more sense. So I found that probably to be the most helpful thing. There was also the 10 pillars that they called them, and these were things that you tried to follow. Again, there was no pressure. It's not like you must do this or else, but that if you follow this, things are going to get better. For example, one of the things was stop seeing every healthcare professional that you can find. That doesn't mean if you've got a physical problem, don't stop going to the doctors. You know, if you've got asthma, keep going. If you've got diabetes, you know, keep going. But it stops you looking for reassurance in someone else. It stops you thinking this person's going to solve my problem, this person's going to solve your problem, and turns it back onto you and says, actually, no, this is something with me and something I need to reassure myself on, not rely on someone else to do it for me. It just allows you to take back a little bit of control and feel like, instead of feeling, which a lot of people do with anxiety, so out of control. And when I say anxiety as well, it also does lead into things like eating disorders, things like PTSD. A lot of those things are all triggered by anxiety, OCD as well. Whereas anxiety is kind of the thing as a whole. Like I said, that lad before had an issue with eating in front of people. Exactly the same sort of thing. It just allows you to take that little bit of control, and you feel like, actually, I can deal with this. Kind of leading into that was like, stop researching it all the time. Stop looking at things all the time. Stop trying to find, stop Googling things and trying to find, oh, what can help this, what can help that? Because the longer you focus on it, and it seems counterintuitive, but the longer you focus on it, makes it worse. So if you try, and you can't ignore it, I understand having anxiety, you can't ignore it, but the more you focus on it, the more you feed it, the more it does get worse. And when I had this, I thought it's never going to work. I've had anxiety for years, it's never going to work. And then I thought about it. I thought the amount of time that I spend Googling stuff and looking at things and looking at this and looking at and trying to make myself feel better, when actually I'm just feeding it and I'm just making it worse. And I'm just, again, looking for reassurance, when actually I needed to take back a little bit of control for myself. And this was hard for me to hear, because I thought, no, this is never going to work. But it really did. It really did help. And again, kind of leading into that, it was like, stop talking about your condition with everybody you meet, which I was doing all the time. I was telling everyone, I've got anxiety, I can't do this, I've got anxiety, can't do that, I've got anxiety. The more you talk about it, the more you're feeding it. Try and find other things you can talk about. Try and talk about, even if it's the weather, talk about anything but your anxiety and your condition. And it's less, they don't care, more like, I care enough about myself to stop focusing solely on that. There's more to me than just my anxiety. That's how I looked at it. There's more to me than just that. I've got so much more interesting things I can talk about than just my anxiety. And when I looked at it like that and I took back that control, it was so much better. The other really important thing that I took away from there was, don't wait to feel better. Oh, I can't do that because I've got anxiety. When I'm not anxious, I'll do it. When I stop being anxious, I'll go to the shops by myself. That time will never come until you actually push yourself and make yourself do it. As uncomfortable and as horrible as it is, when you push yourself to do it, yeah, it'll feel like shit for the first few times, but gradually it will get easier, and gradually you'll go, do you know what? I've been 4 times and I've not once had a panic attack. I've been 4 times and I've not once knocked something over or bumped into someone, and actually everything was okay. And it starts to add up in your head, and it starts to get less painful and less stressful. And it's just, stop waiting until you feel better. Just do it, as horrible as it is. And I know for some people it's like, well, I can't do it. No, you can do it. If I can do it, if somebody who was in that horrible low state can do it, like, anyone can do it. Obviously, I'm not a healthcare professional. I'm not somebody who is trained in anything. I'm just hoping that putting this out will help somebody to feel a little bit better, because it really did help me. And obviously I would encourage anybody that can afford it to go to the Linden Method, but it is a lot of money. And if I can give out little tips and tricks that I've learned that might help somebody, then it's 100% worth it. Again, just to stress, I'm not a healthcare professional. I'm not trained in this. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm just somebody who has struggled and been to the darkest place that anybody could possibly be. And I've come out not completely the other side. And don't get me wrong, I still have my struggles. I still have my anxieties. There are still days when I panic. I have the rare panic attack still, but it is few and far between in comparison to how I was those years ago. I really found that putting these things into practice that I had picked up from the Linden Method and from my stay there has ultimately changed my life and has helped me put things into perspective and helped me to cope with things when things get overwhelming. I think back to that little chart, and it really does help me. I can just see things a lot more clearly, and I can just make sense of things a lot more and just cope better. And whilst I'm not cured, I'm in a much, much better position than I could ever imagined I would be. So it has ultimately been life-changing. For anybody who can afford it, I highly, highly recommend checking out the Linden Method. They're just incredible and have helped me so much. There's online things as well, and obviously don't cost as much as actually going in person. They've got a Facebook page that they put videos on, so again, worth checking out if you're somebody who does struggle with anxiety. And hopefully this video can help even one person, just a little bit of reassurance that you can come out of it and you can just not want to die anymore. As crazy as that sounds, you can get to the other side. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye bye.